Hello, everybody. It is another live video with Karen. So let me just check that I've gone live in my Patreon as well, and I will be with you in 2 seconds. So seconds ago. Hopefully it's working. Let me just refresh my screen a second and I will be with you all. Now, technology, it's great when it works. Use YouTube Live. Yes, that's what I'm doing. Paste. Right, we're here. Baby sleep and parenting. What was the title in? Baby sleep and parenting. Aha, right. We're cooking with gas by the look of things. 12 o'clock, fine. Oh no, I wanted it for today. Schedule. 7th, right. 12:10 p.m. Save. Okay, so I've got to do 12:15. Right, it doesn't like me starting on exactly the same time. Right, save. Okay, couldn't schedule your post. Right, looks so I've got to do 12:20. Right, so just bear with me while I just wait for Patreon to catch up with this. Right, so today I'm going to be answering a question from Kimberly, and she's got a little baby who is 6 months of age. So we're going to be talking about settling today. We're going to be talking about sleep with young babies. And I'm going to be talking about, when babies should move to their own room or whether they should stay in their parents' room, what you should do with them, when you should move them from a bassinet to a cot, all that sort of stuff. And we're also going to be looking at night feeds today, because his timings are a bit erratic. So it looks like we've got a few things to sort out in today's question. So if anybody's watching this on YouTube, you're welcome to send me any questions in about parenting or baby sleep. This is something that I'm doing that's new, and I'm always up for a little bit of a new challenge. So I've been running, I'll let you know a little bit about me. So I've been running Nurture Parenting for the last 12 years. I established it initially over in Sydney, Australia. So I was there for over 21 years in Sydney. And then I've recently moved back to the UK in the north of England. And I'm moving to doing a Patreon account, which I'm connecting this YouTube live with the Patreon. I was doing Facebook, but I had a little bit of a fallout with Facebook, shall we say. It just wasn't working anymore for me. And they've actually stopped me downloading my old videos, which I think is quite outrageous because those videos are my videos and they belong to me. So me and Facebook, we're just over. our relationship. So I'm trying this Patreon with YouTube Live. So I'm building this up next. So as a baby sleep consultant, I've been a midwife for over 34 years. I'm a health visitor. I'm also a published author. I've just published book number 9 on reflux and foodology. So I've written a lot of books all about parenting. My first one was baby massage. Then I moved on to a newborn book. Then I've done a baby sleep book called Baby Sleep Rescue. I've written a book about potty training. I've written books on nutrition. I've done 2 nutrition books, written a book about separation anxiety, and written a book about a strong-willed child. So may write one more, and then we've got a nice round number of 10, but we'll see what happens. So I do a lot of social media stuff, a lot of video. I've been doing a little bit of TikTok. I'm going to be moving to doing some webinars soon as well through TikTok, etc. But I'm hoping to do a lot more on this YouTube. I set up YouTube 2000 and must be 2011, 2012, and started doing little bits of educational stuff on YouTube. And now I've moved to the north of England. I've got a bit more time to do a bit more education and a few more live videos. So if there's anything out there that you want to ask me about, then these live videos are a way of doing that. I had turned off my comments on my channel because in the early days I used to get so much spam. It was just ridiculous. But I might turn them on again. Who knows? So I'm just waiting for Patreon and YouTube to catch up with each other. Let me just see what's happening. Yeah, 12:45 scheduled. Right, I've got another 5 minutes to go. Let me just see. I've just got a question come through. Tube up first, then link to Patreon. Give Kimberly the link. Here is the link. At the moment, I'm just working out how all this works and how it all syncs together. Right. Alrighty, so I think we might as well start with the question shortly as soon as Kimberly joins me on here. I'm just waiting for that. And hopefully it'll tell me when she's arrived. So yes, so like I was saying, I'm going to be doing these on a regular basis each week. And hopefully next time I'll be a little bit more organised than what I am today, because I'm just working out how all this works at the moment. And I've just finished doing a consult to a mum back in Australia. So I do Zoom consultations on a regular basis, as well as social media, video stuff, and lots of different things. So I'm living up here in the north of England in the middle of a forest. And luckily I've got this Elon Musk satellite internet called Starlink, which has changed my life because I'm literally living in the middle of a forest, which is fascinating. I have no mobile phone reception where I live. It's very rural. My neighbours are cows and sheep, and we're growing our own veggies, and we've got massive gardens, and it's just stunning. But the connection sometimes with the outside world, because of lack of mobile reception, is a little bit of a challenge. We have to run up the lane to get a two-factor identification, because where we live is just in a black hole where there's no reception for the phone, which is in this day and age is very interesting. Now let me see if Kimberly's found me yet. Don't think she's found me yet. I'm not sure whether it goes live on Patreon or live full stop until it's all synced up together. But yeah, I'm going to be answering all sorts of stuff to do with parenting 0 to 5 years of age. So it could be anything from sleeping to child behavior to what you should feed your baby on, when you should feed your baby, how you manage your day, development, how you move babies on, etc., etc. I'm literally like the oracle. You can ask me anything from 0 to 5 years of age. So let me just refresh this screen, see if Kimberly's just hopped over. I think we've just got 1 minute to go for Patreon, just links all this stuff up together. And once I've seen Kimberly hop over onto here, I'll start the question. So I hope you're all having a lovely day wherever you are in the world. And I hope the world's been kind to you today. Right, so it's just posted the live video in the Patreon page. There it is. Right, so let me start this question because it is quite a big question. And hopefully Kimberly will join me soon. She says, "Hi Karen, I have a few questions. Question 1, I'm currently in week 2 of Magic Presents, but what makes me nervous is being able to somehow assure Eddie, 6 months of age, that I'm there. During week 1, he would cry, move around and squirm a lot. But after crying for a while, I observed that he would just turn to where my hand is placed on the mattress, hold my hand or even rub his face on my hand, then fall asleep very quickly after that. The room is very dark. I'm worried if I take my hand away completely, he won't be able to see that I'm there. So instead, I've placed my hand on the cot railing. Is this okay?" As long as you move on with the process each week, Kimberly, it's absolutely fine. Okay. But you must move on each week. It is really important because if you're too near the cot, then you can get over attachment, which can in self create a sleep problem. With settling a baby, all you need to be is present. You don't need to do very much, despite what every parent thinks they should be doing. Every parent thinks they need to be doing something active, whereas instead we need to be passive and present and hold space. That is the key to this. And I get asked this a lot. How will my baby know I'm there, Karen? And it's like when somebody follows you down the street or walks into a room, but you don't hear them, but you sense them. You have that feeling that they are there. That's what this is based on. That's what Magic Presence is based on. The room's very dark. So instead of placement, our room setup is such that he's sleeping on his travel cot beside my bed. So when I'm putting him down to sleep, I'm also lying down on my bed looking down at him. Should I do anything to alert him to my presence in case he can't see me at night? You can do a little cough or you could do a big yawn. Either of those things are quite acceptable. You don't want to talk because if you talk, that is going to calm him. And like I say, your presence is all the child needs. Every parent thinks they need to do. You need to be. Hope that makes sense. Should I do anything to alert him? Right. So between 6 and 8 months, a baby's learning to be separate to you for the first time. It's the psychological cutting of the cord, but it has to happen to sort out all of development. And so if we don't move on with the process, if we keep on touching or being too near the cot and we don't move on, then it doesn't allow that psychological cutting of the cord to happen, which has to happen with every baby. And it's a grief and loss process, but they have to go through it to be a complete individual. So the issues that you're raising here, Kimberly, are what I get asked all the time. Children feel that you are there. That's all they need. And I think particularly because you've been doing this for 2 weeks now, he should be self-settling pretty easily. Question 2, we also plan to move him into his own nursery and crib in the next week or so. I'm nervous about whether he will take it well. Do you have any tips to help make the transition easier and less stressful for him? Right. What we do when it comes to moving babies out of our room into their own nursery is we put our feelings and emotions onto the baby and we think, I wouldn't like that. But again, it's that psychological cutting of the cord. It is important they're aware that they're separate. And, you've had him with you for a long time and it raises these emotions in you, Kimberly. That's where it's coming from. So it's not really about Eddie, it's more about you. And I'm sure every new mum worries about moving their child. I was just talking to a mum before and I've helped her with her first child. She's now on child number 3. She's ready to move out of his room. She didn't even question or worry about it. But it's that first child. We create this big attachment. And I can understand. I can totally understand. But you move out of there when, move him out of there when you are ready. So if you're raising this, are you ready is what I'm going to ask. Because there's a little thing that says to me that maybe you're not quite ready, Kimberly. And question 3. So any tips to help make it transition easier? Sleep training and being able to self-settle is the key to learning to be separate. Whether it's that separation anxiety developmental leap or whether it's moving rooms or any transition in the future, whether it be daycare, having him looked after by another person, everything is down to sleep training, because what sleep training does is it helps the baby self-regulate. It helps their brain self-regulate. So the key is being taught how to self-settle, being taught how to manage your emotions. That's the key thing, Kimberly. Question 3, night feeds. His night feed timings are quite erratic. He usually only wakes up once throughout the night, but at odd times like 1:30 a.m. yesterday, 3:30 a.m. to 5:15. I'm worried about whether he's going through a growth spurt and actually feels hungry and needs to feed, or whether I should try and resettle. Right. What I generally do with a 6-month-old baby, and not everybody might agree with this, but nutritionally, a baby after 6 months does not need a night feed. When we feed them, it is replacing with volume what should be calories in the day with food. So food has 3 to 10 times the calories of milk. So for example, milk has only got 70 calories per 100 mils, whereas food has 3 to 10 times that amount. Avocado's got 160 calories per 100 grams. Butter's got 717. Pumpkin's got about 160. Meat, chicken, beef, whatever's got about 400 per 100 grams. So you see where I'm going with this, but it's the good fats that are really important. And, they're not as hungry as what you think they are when you resettle them. But if you wanted, you could do 1 feed after midnight and resettle all of the waking after you've put him down to sleep at night time up to midnight. And then next week, the second week, I'd just take away all the night feeds. Because the longer you keep on feeding him for, the more it rewards behaviour and the more he will expect it and start waking. I've tried resettling him last night for about 45 minutes, but started hesitating because of the growth spurt point. End up feeding him. If he's having a growth spurt, it's actually food, Kimberly, that's going to help that. So when you're looking at your pie chart of nutrition of 100%, 50% should be good fats, 40% carbs, 10% protein. The reason that they have a lot of good fats is about brain growth. 90% of that brain is grown by the age of 3. It's made of fat. It needs fat to grow. So we need to add things into his food like olive oil, coconut oil, butter, grated cheese, oily fish, etc., etc. Avocado, all the good fats, okay? Nut butters, things like smooth peanut butter, almond nut butter, etc. So we need to look at the good fats in particular. And then we need to make sure we've got that balance of carbs and a little bit of protein, and fruit and veg are more like a frippery. So fruit and veg are not the hero of the dish. So it is food that's going to help the growth spurt, not milk. See, every mum thinks milk is the answer. It's food that's the actual answer. Yes, milk's still important, but food is ultimately more important. And, I'm going to give you a little graph, for example. So this is how long babies can cry for at certain ages because of learnt behaviour. So 2 to 3 months, you've got 20 to 30 minutes of crying. 4 months, you've got 40 minutes of crying when you first start teaching self-settling. And then you get to 6 months plus, you've got 1 to 4 hours of crying. And in fact, the mum I did a consult with just literally right before this, her baby cried for 3 hours on night 1 of sleep training. So the amount of crying you get is based on temperament, and it's based on learnt behaviour. And the key thing is when you decide to resettle, that you are committed to self-settling, that you don't cut it short, because next time it says you cry for an hour and then you get a feed, next time cry louder and you'll get your feed. I know he went for 3 hours, Kimberly. It nearly broke me. I had one baby who went for 3 hours. That was her baby number 1. She actually said to me, she goes, I think baby number 3 is similar to baby number 1. I said, I was wanting to ask that, Beck, but I didn't dare ask it. And, he's a great sleeper now and he's 7. So this was 6.5 years ago, nearly. I can remember it like it was yesterday, because it was another level of hell, even for me. And at the time I was thinking, oh my God, how long can this child go for? But I found out who the dad was. So whenever I do a visit, in person, this is when I was in Sydney, I'd turn up at a house, I wouldn't know who it was quite I was seeing. And then I asked the dad, so, what do you do for a job and how many people do you employ? Because he runs his own business. He said, over 100. I said, oh, right. Okay. Then I found out that he actually knew my partner, Steve, and he runs an air conditioning business. And he'd done some work at the Cancer Council where Steve was working for at the time. And once I realised he employed this 100 people, I knew that he was determined. And so apples don't fall far from trees, Kimberly. And as a result, his child was super determined. But this next one, Matteo, she said he's looking like he's made of the same, cut from the same cloth, so to speak. I had one child in my career that went for 4 hours. I'll tell you about this one before I get back to your questions. So I was, I got this phone call from these parents, and they said, I've heard about you and you have to come and help me. I was like, who is this telling me I have to come? I have to come. And they said, if you don't come and help us, we're getting divorced, Karen. Things have got just terrible and life is just over as we know it. I was like, oh, wow. I thought this is a challenge. And then I found out this little boy called Jed. It was around the same time, so probably he's about 7 or 8 now, is Jed. And he'd had reflux. Now, when the babies had reflux, they often have to be over-serviced because they've been in pain. And then this creates massive sleep problems. This is where all the trouble had come from. So night 1, we're doing the magic presence method. And I think mum was sat by the cot initially. Then I swapped the parents over because I wanted to see, did Jed react differently to the other parent? And they've been doing lots of servicing, like I say, patting, rocking, shushing, holding, feeding. everything that had been going on, probably a dummy as well. And after 2 hours, I said to the parents, I said, "Right," I said, "I'm gonna sit by that cot now." I said, "You 2, back of the room." And it went for 3 hours, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, seriously?" And I said to the parents, I said, "Right, we've got to 3 hours." I said, "Buckle up, we're ready for another hour." So I can tell this kid's got lungs and, determination was not in it. So, you know, it's temperament that comes into this settling business far more than anything else. And he's just a very strong-willed little baby. And it's amazing that at 8, 9 months of age, babies can be so strong-willed, but they are. I've met a lot of them. And a lot of these kids have got very interesting, unique names as well, which, alerts me to trouble. I had a mum the other day that had helped with a child when she was little, and they called her Olympia. I thought that's a very strong word. And when I listened to what she was doing now at 3.5, I was like, "Mhm, that's why I was having such trouble with her when she was little." So we look at little babies as being very innocent and pliable. No, they're not. There's actually a concept called baby rage, and, it's something I've written about in my book about separation anxiety, that when babies are not getting what they usually get, what they have learnt to expect, they have a bit of rage. So in all my career as a baby whisperer, I've never heard a sad baby in a bedroom yet, but my God, have I heard some angry, furious, raging children. I've toddlers, I've had my hair pulled, I've been bitten, I've had everything done to me. So in those days, I used to think I need danger money with this job because they get very primal. You see, adults, we hide our emotions often. We hide our anger and stuff. It comes out in other ways. Like the English have this fabulous word called fine. So if you ask somebody how they are, and they go, "I'm very cross." But we've learned to put veneers on our emotions, whereas, babies, they don't have that ability to do that. They show you who they truly, truly are, warts and all. And so I've seen some very ferociously angry babies and children. And, luckily babies can't jump out of the cot. But older kids, yeah, they will try and jump out the cot. They will throw things. They will hit you. They will bite you. They get furious. See, we have this misconception that babies are sweet and lovely. Yes, they're sweet and lovely, but they're also very angry at times when they're not getting what they want. So both those kids got sorted, Kimberly. Both Jed and Luca got sorted. And I said to Beck, "Is he still as strong-willed?" And she goes, "Yes." But, sleep training, it teaches children how to manage their emotions. And so all this anger that these strong-willed kids have inside them, they use that for good. They channel it, and it comes out in other ways, in determination, etc., rather than destructive in impulse control issues. See, if we don't manage kids' emotions properly and we repress them, then we end up with impulse control, and particular boys have massive issues with impulse control. So with adolescent boys, it would end up with things like car hooning, petty crime, it would end up drug taking, alcohol, fighting. So that's what happens when we don't manage emotions properly and we don't help children and teach them how to self-regulate. So doing sleep training to me is like a no-brainer because we need to help children manage their emotions properly, that they don't do anything that they would regret in life or that would land them in trouble with the law, etc. And this is something that has to be taught. If you teach it under 1, you can get really good results. Leave it under 2, stats are not so great. Leave it past 3, you've got big trouble. And this is where a lot of ADHD comes from. It comes from lack of managing emotions properly as babies. And anxiety is stuck emotion, is stuff that's stuck inside and does not know how to come out. And so what we're doing with sleep training is we're helping the emotion to come out. We're teaching the baby how to get that emotion out. And to do that, you have to send them to their planet emotionally and let them, it's like releasing the pressure cooker. Let them vent, let it out. Don't distract, don't divert, hold space. So holding space is about being truly present, but it's not about doing, it's about being. Kimberly says, if I move a foot away from the cot, will his cries escalate? No, they shouldn't do, because he should now be self-settling. It's when we do things that are active, that we touch them, that we hold their hand, that's where trouble starts. So the baby is allowed to touch you, but you're just not allowed to touch them. But that's why each week you must move on with the process and you don't create over-attachment. So I don't think his cries will escalate, Kimberly, at all. I think you're thinking that his cries will escalate, but I don't think they will. Because I've never heard of this causing issues when we get week 1 right and we do the true self-settling without doing anything active, then you shouldn't have any issues moving away after that, love. So let me get into the rest of your question. So I'm glad this YouTube Live and Patreon is working. I'm glad I've managed to link it together. Even though when I first set it off live today, I was like going, is this going to work? So I've worked out that what I have to do, that I have to do it through Google Chrome as a browser and not do it through Safari. I was trying to do it through Safari because I use Safari for everything, and Safari was not my friend for YouTube, which would make sense because YouTube is Google. So, right, question 3. Let me just have a look. Question 4, sorry. I love making smoothies, usually fruit and spinach, carrot, cucumber, beetroot. Can Eddie have them as well? I'm just concerned it might be too sweet for him because of the high fruit content, although no added sugar. No, would be absolutely fine to do. However, I would put some banana in there to make it a bit low GI. And that would also thicken the actual smoothie a little bit as well. It'll just make it easier to give, but you can absolutely give this to Eddie. So all those fruits, and veg that you've mentioned are good ones. But I'd have it as something like an appetizer or something after the main event. In England, I'm not sure if people do smoothies for their babies, so maybe it's just the north of England, Kimberly. But I love smoothies myself. And when I moved to Australia, everybody has smoothies over there. But I would put banana in because, like I said, it just helps lower the GI of what it is that you're giving. But I think it's a good way to get some good fruit and veg into him. No, 3 to 4 meals a day is not too much for him. Babies, they do easily get distracted. They don't have much attention span. They have the attention span of a little butterfly at times. Flitting. So, have you tried finger foods? Because finger foods help focus them a little bit more. And I've been looking at things like, have you heard of Cruskits? Maybe they're like an Australian biscuit, but it's like a very soft cracker. How would I describe it? But it goes to mush in your mouth. I wonder if there's an equivalent of Cruskits for over here. I'm not sure. I'll have to do some bit of research about that. I don't actually buy biscuits and crackers, so I'm not sure what they would be over here. Yep. Not fusilli. Right, that's okay. Things like chicken drumsticks, yeah, lamb cutlets can be good, but do the lamb cutlet medium rare. But I would look at some sort of crisp bread. Yeah. Often babies don't want to be spoon-fed long term, so you've got a window between now and 8 months where you can still spoon feed him, but after 8 months, he'll probably reject the spoon. So that's why starting finger foods now, so important. It really is. But I think by decreasing these night feeds and maybe resettling them all, I think he would actually have a better appetite. Because often what's happening is they're full of milk, and so they're not hungry enough, then they end up snack feeding. So I'd be tempted to, take away those night feeds. It takes about 5 days before their appetite goes through the roof. So be brave, definitely decrease one of them, but if I came to help you at home, I'd probably suggest taking both of them away and just resettling everything. It'll only be hard on night 1, Kimberly. After that, it'd be so much easier. Babies, nutritionally, do not need a night feed. I'm sure I'll get hate mail for this, but this is what the Royal Australian College of GPs, their position statement is as well, and I'm sure there's a position statement similar to that over in the UK here. I'll have to go and do a little bit of research, bit of looking for it. But after 6 months of age, babies do not need night feeds. Those milk feeds should be in the day, and then they should be more interested with their food. So that's the answer to all of that, love. So, have I answered all of that okay, Kimberly? Has it all made sense? I wouldn't even give him water in the night. Okay. Again, we put that we put our feelings for ourselves onto the child. I would, because anything you give, whether it's a water feed or a milk feed, will still cause night waking because it's active, it's not passive. And they're not as thirsty as what you think they are. So I'll give you an example. One night I was doing sleep training and I had 6-7-month-old baby, and I was in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. We're on the actual Dover Heights. It's where the actual cliffs are. It's a beautiful place. It's stunning. And it was 35 degrees that day. It had been scorching, and I was in an apartment. And apartments in Australia can be a bit stuffy sometimes. And I was taking away all the night feeds, and the father was having the panic, screaming abdabs at me. And he said, "You're going to dehydrate my baby. This is ridiculous. I can't believe what you're doing." So I just thought, right, I'm going to play the devil's advocate here. And I said, right, let's see how thirsty your child really is. Let's give some cool boiled water. The baby took 15 mils. So to the dad, "See, was your baby really thirsty?" He was like, oh. I think he thought, "Karen, you are so irritating." But I was correct. So in all these years, Kimberly, because I've done this job for so long, as you know, I've been a midwife for 34 years. I've been doing baby sleep work for 21 years. And I spent the last, 21 years working in person in the home with families, doing the overnights, doing the hard yards. Yeah. You see, everything that you parents feel, I've come across it. There's nothing left that I don't know about, because I've got the practical experience as well as the educational knowledge as well. But I know these babies are never as thirsty as what their parents think. And the mum I was talking to before, was it today or yesterday, said, "My baby's not eating their breakfast because they're feeding all night." And I was like, because when you're filling up on milk all night, suddenly you don't want to eat your breakfast. You don't have the appetite. So appetite control, is skewed when we do night feeds when babies don't need them. And when you've got broken sleep, you tend to snack eat. When you're having a good night's sleep, you get good appetite control. Yeah. So don't worry, Kimberly. Anything that you ask me, I will know from a practical point of view as well as an educational point of view. Yep. No, you always give milk first at this age, and then at 9 months of age, it moves the other way around to food first, milk second. So at the start of the day, always start off with milk first, and then at 9 months of age, it's always food first. So what your day would look like would be, say he starts his day at 6, then you start your day with a milk feed, an hour later give breakfast, and then goes down for his nap about 9, depending on tired signs. And then that nap will be about an hour, 40 minutes to an hour. And then he has his lunch about 11:30, do main and dessert, something like a chia pudding. Then I'll be doing your milk feed an hour after that, and then down for the nap between 1 and 3. Obviously, all these times are flexible. This is a flexible day routine. And then you do your solids about 5-ish, main and dessert. And it's a healthy dessert. We're not talking chocolate cake here. So like a rice pudding or a chia pudding. Then I would be doing your milk feed about quarter to half an hour before bed. Story, milk feed, story with a sleep theme, down for bed by 6:30, and then resettling all the night waking. So that's what it would sort of look like, Kimberly. So I hope that's helpful. Alrighty, so has that answered everything today? No, I'd serve them all together, okay? The only time you'd give things separately if it's an allergen that you've not given before. So, like, for example, smooth peanut butter. When you first give that, you give quarter to half a teaspoon, and that's the only, new food that you would give that day, and you do that for 2 to 3 days. But you'd give the other food that you've been giving for ages in addition to that. So you can mix things together. So say he's been having chicken, sweet potato, and pumpkin and zucchini on a regular basis, and then you'd add a little bit of peanut, quarter to half a teaspoon of peanut butter in with that, and only give that as the new food that for the next 2 to 3 days. So it's only allergens that you gotta be really cautious with. Everything else, you can just go for it. So allergens are things like all the nut pastes, it's egg yolk and egg white, which should be fully cooked. It's fish, so white fish, oily fish, shellfish. It's things like kiwi fruit, pineapple, citrus, tomatoes, eggplant, aubergine, dairy, milk, cheese, yada yada. Sesame, which is tahini, sesame paste. So they're the things that are more allergenic. It's rare to get other foods that are allergenic than those. So, and I've just finished writing book number 9, all about reflux and food allergy and eczema, etc. And as somebody who has all these things myself, I felt I was probably the best person to write this book. So, because I've lived it and I know it. So that's all right, Kimberly. It's a pleasure, love. So, if nobody's got anything else they want to ask today, then I'm going to toodle off because I'm going down to see my mum and dad this afternoon. I've got my mum's iPad to sort out. So she has little issues with her iPad every now and again. And because she's 80, she's like, I can't do this, Karen. I'm too old for this stuff. So I've got to go iPad sorting out. So I'm going to be driving through the Lake District on my way down there. I thought, shall I go the motorway, the M6? I thought, no, blow it. I'm going to drive through Ambleside and Windermere and all those lovely little places because that's where I'm from originally. Is from the Lake District. That's where my parents live. And I live in the north of the Lake District to a place called Hudden in the Forest, which is literally a forest. It was the second biggest forest in the UK in the 12th century. So I thought I'd have a little scenic little trip down. And the weather's actually supposed to be really good today. Looks a bit dull outside at the moment, but we're supposed to be hitting 23 at about 5, 6 o'clock tonight, and there's supposed to be sunshine. So I hope the weather's good where you are, Kimberly. And I hope your day's going really well, love. But you've got this. You do know what you're doing, and it's going to be fine. So I'm glad you've joined me. 25 degrees South London. Fabulous. Perfect for Wimbledon. So I hope you have a lovely weekend, Kimberly, and thank you for joining me. And I'm really glad this YouTube Live and Patreon has worked. It's always great when technology does actually work. It makes me very happy. So I'm going to love you all and leave you, and I will see you all same time next week. So does this Friday, 12 o'clock, does that work? Is that a good time? Because I could literally do any time apart from 11 till 12, because that's when I do my consults back to Australia on the whole. So let me know if you'd prefer another time. I might play around with the times, and I think it'll take a while before people get used to the fact I'm doing YouTube Live again. I did do it about, I don't know, about 7 or 8 years ago, and then I stopped doing it because I got too busy doing overnight stays. See, I spend all my life in Australia just been tired from overnight stays in helping families, and so all my sort of social media suffered a little bit. Whereas now I'm not doing overnight stays anymore. So I would do them if somebody really wanted one, but I think most people can just do things with a Zoom, etc. So let me love you all and leave you, and I will see you all next week. So bye from Karen.